2 minutes until showtime.
We're gonna rise up with the sun in the morning. We're gonna start each brand new day with a prayer. Because without the love and kindness of our Lord and our Savior, we sons of liberty can't get anywhere. We're gonna do the work our Lord puts before us. There's a job that surely needs to get done. The job of waking up the nation to the New World Order, which is trying to put us under their thumb. We ain't gonna wait around any longer. We ain't gonna hesitate anymore. Now that we've opened up our eyes and analyzed the situation, we realize that we're in a war, and it's a struggle for the life of our nation, for the survival of our sovereignty.
Until
and it's a battle
showtime.
for the heart and mind and soul of the people, for our freedom and our liberty. And so we ain't gonna fight for the New World Order. We ain't gonna train to be no UN soldier, and we ain't gonna give the enemy no more aid nor quarter, 'cause we ain't gonna fight for the New World Order. No, 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 no way. No way. Oh, they can't make us. They can't break us. Say adios. Oh, Boutros. Surrender my nation to your global plantation? Well, I don't think so.
Our show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2,
1. Blog Talk Radio.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom. I'll keep my guns. Try to keep my money and my religion too. Now keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee, maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. I'm going to keep my big BA, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need. We know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. And I've been doing the show for a long time. I've been doing my magazines and writing my articles for a long time. And I really want you to understand why I'm doing this show, why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I think it's important. I think it's important, and I've almost had a block. Now, keep in mind, folks, I've been writing for a long time. The novels I wrote 40 years ago are about to be reworked. As soon as I've got to put a few things to bed here. I've got a few things to put to bed here. And I am trying to accomplish that. Maybe you need to understand what I've done before and what I started doing a number of years back. it's let me just share with this. This is the magazine that I put out here. You can see them. I've got back issues up on the website, and in that magazine, in every issue since 1996. I said the free American remains committed to bringing the truth to the American people. We believe that in a free society it is the job of the press to be the watchman of the government. It then falls upon the people, being fully informed, to decide what actions they must take to preserve and defend their liberty. The free American is unabashedly pro-American. Too many of our ancestors fought and died to protect our Constitution, the oldest in the world, to ensure that we would retain those liberties spelled out in our Bill of Rights. Based on the knowledge we have compiled over the last 9 years of publication, and I believe I put this out in 2008, we believe there is a verifiable, well-documented plan to force Americans into a global government complete with one world banking, a global ID system, international police force, and a disarmed populace. This is unacceptable to us personally and incompatible with our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. Those who advocate such a global system and the dismantling of our Bill of Rights are either misguided, uninformed, or totally knowledgeable traitors to this country. We will expose them. The Free American is not affiliated with any political party, religious sect, secret society, cult, club, or movement. We do not advocate violence, but we stress the right of self-defense and the individual's right to bear arms, to be free of intrusive government, to privacy, and the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Now, this is the beginning of an article that I've really had, I've had writer's block, not something that happens to me. How do we address this? It seems, you know, if everybody, the enemy's plans here are to divide us up, keep us fighting amongst each other, and they do this on a global scale to get us to the Jews interfere and instigate with Iran, with Iraq, with Libya. They go in and instigate, and then they bring our forces in. We're working. They're working us, or we're working them. Who's doing it? We don't know. And the reason it's not being fixed, folks, is it's fixed all the way up on the upper levels. The KGB is working with the FBI. The Homeland Security is nothing more than the KGB for Americans. The detention centers are here in America, just like they had them in the Soviet Union and Germany. The only problem is that you white Christians might be the Jews today here in this country, and they're already trying to do that to you. They're trying to paint you into a picture of extremist, conspiracy theorist, like that's a bad thing. Oh, he started militias. That's a bad thing. Oh, that's what they're trying to pound into you. And just as I was sitting down to write this article, I got this in from someone out there. I don't know who it's from, and I'm including it because it's one of the problems that we have. They're actually right in what they're saying here, but the way they're saying it and the conclusions that they're coming to push us more apart. And this is the problem that I'm facing right now. When I'm trying to tell you the extent, it's like Edgar Hoover said. You know, the average person is overwhelmed when they come face to face with a conspiracy so vast they just can't believe it can exist. Somebody sent me this. The problem is that Americans are the most naive people on the planet. We have no problem believing other governments lie to their own people and propaganda is widely used, but if you even have proof of propaganda being used here and try to show it, you're labeled a wacko conspiracy nut. Sheep being led to slaughter is what we are now. All those sheep who turn back and try to warn others to turn around are laughed at. Satan has deceived the whole world, and Americans are the most deceived. Why? We would rather be entertained by Jew TV, Harlotwood, Jew-owned movies, listen to the Jew-owned prostitutes, or the Communist News Network. Our ancestors in Europe are not easily deceived because they didn't have all these modern entrapments, and they read their Bibles. Christian Zionists, Christian Satanists don't read their Bibles, but they go to their Jew-loving church on Sunday to get their latte frappuccino or sit in their mega church and listen to rock music they call worship music. Okay, we've lost something here. Hang on. Okay, no, haven't lost anything. We're adding stuff here. Started a little late here. My apologies at Crusade and Truth Radio. Hopefully we're on Truth Radio now, and that will be working. It's hard to tell.
$2 in unpaid taxes until Valerie and Robert demonstrated in...
Okay, there we had Truth Radio, but sorry about that. Didn't come up. Now this, what this guy says, well, you know, if they're saying our Christian Zionist, and this is what I've echoed, if you're a Christian Zionist, if you're a Judeo-Christian, that's a Christian Satanist. And so the Christians are just deluded. Now, just yesterday, I went to a bar, and I always sit in the same place in this bar on the same day. It's my spot where they want me, because it's a taco day, and my boys and I like to go get tacos. And some guy, kind of gross, was sitting there taking up a couple of stools, and I asked him to move his bag so I could sit down in my regular seat. And he did that, ended up striking up a little bit of conversation, and I said the wrong thing. I said Jesus was a rebel, one of the first rebels, and he took offense to that. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, okay, I'm working on my master's degree in divinity, so I may have studied just a little bit. But you better move away from me. You better just find another stool, because I'm about ready to knock you off of that one. And he moved. He moved away and sat at the end of the bar and you know, talked loud enough that I could hear occasionally a couple of his comments. But we let her walk, and I thought, my God, this is a Christian. Now, I've been trying to tell you folks, there's a war on Christians. They killed 60 million white Russian Christians. Not all of them may be Christians. Some of them Jews. They killed a lot of people under Stalin, under communism. And that's what they're setting us up for here. I've tried to tell you that. Now, I said one of the problems that we have is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? No, I don't want to go out and kill nobody. I don't want to kill the Muslims. I don't want us to go to war with Iran. I don't want to destroy Israel. If we have a system of individual rights, as the Bill of Rights in our Constitution set us up for, and we enforced that, we would be better off. But Americans have been deluded. They are the most naive. They have forgotten who they are. They're forgetting what they stood for. There's not just any color. Blacks fought with whites in the Civil War. They're fighting for their land. They're fighting for their freedom, and we have been misled. And we've been misled since I started this magazine to stand up for American sovereignty. We've been talking about the UN, and the question of how and why the UN is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is complete a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage all the news, not to tell us the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the great conspiracy, and the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations one world government. Now, this is probably written back in the Vietnam era, folks, but what happened in Vietnam is now happening, getting ready to happen in Iran, and we stood against it then. I volunteered for Vietnam, but I certainly wouldn't encourage my sons to volunteer into this United Nations. Michael New's son, stood up for that. Daniel New's son stood up against that, and was, of course, prosecuted out of the Army for failing to obey a UN order. Now, if they take us into this war in Iran, that's going to be a global conflict, and that's what they want. That's what they are planning on. Now, they said, bear in mind, and the author of this article here, whoever this was, says, bear in mind that the so-called UN police force in Korea fought by the United States, in which 150,000 of our sons were murdered and maimed, was just part of the plot, just as the undeclared war by Congress in Vietnam is part of the plot, just as the plot against Rhodesia, South Africa, are part of the UN plot. And vitally important for all Americans, to all you mothers of the boys who died in Korea or dying in Vietnam and dying in Iraq, is to know that our so-called leaders in Washington, who we elected to safeguard our nation and our Constitution, are the betrayers, and they're behind them are a comparatively small group of men whose sole objective is to enslave the whole of humanity with their satanic one world government. Now, in order to give you a clear picture of this satanic plot, let me go back to the middle of the 18th century. Name the men who put that plot into action, and that then bring you down to the present, today's status of this plot. As a matter of further intelligence, a term used by the FBI, let me clarify the meaning of the expression, he is a liberal. That's the enemy, meaning the one world conspirators, have seized upon the word liberal as a cover-up for their actions. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. Well, make sure that person who calls himself liberal is not, described as a liberal, is not in truth a communist. Now, this satanic plot was hatched back in 1760 when it first came into existence under the name Illuminati. This Illuminati was organized by Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, converted to Catholicism, became a Catholic priest, and then at the behest of the newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation in every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution. Has been promoted by the Illuminati, operating under various names and guises. I say under various names and guises because after the Illuminati was exposed and became notorious, Weishaupt and his co-conspirator began to operate under various other names. In the United States, immediately after World War I, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. The CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States and its hierarchy. The masterminds in control of the original Illuminati conspirators were foreigners, but to conceal that fact, most of them changed their original family names to American-sounding names. For example, the two names of the Dillons, Clarences, and Douglas Dillon, one Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, is Leposki. Okay. Weishaupt completed his task on May 1st, 1776. Now you know why May 1st is a great day with all communist nations. This very day, May 1st, is also known as Law Day by the American Bar Association. And this celebration of May 1st goes back further in history. We won't go into that point right now. Now, he says, at this point, let me stress a prime feature of the Illuminati plans. When and if their blueprint for world control, the protocols of the elders of Zion, is discovered and exposed, they would wipe all Jews off the face of the earth in order to divert suspicion from themselves. Now, if you think this is far-fetched, bear in mind that they permitted Hitler, a liberal socialist himself who was financed by the corrupt Kennedys, Warburgs, and Rothschilds, to incinerate 600,000 Jews. That's probably a little bit more reasonable figure than 6 million. Now, why did the conspirators choose the word Illuminati for their satanic organization? Weishaupt himself said the word is derived from Lucifer and means holder of light, using the lie that his objective is to bring about a one-world government to enable those with mental abilities to govern the world and prevent all wars in the future. In short, the words peace on earth is his base, is the same bait as peace is used by the 1945 conspirators to force the United Nations on us. Weishaupt, financed, I repeat, by the Rothschilds, recruited some 2,000 paid followers. These included the most intelligent men in the field of arts, letters, education, science, finance, and industry. He then established the lodges of the Grand Orient Masonic Lodges to be their secret headquarters. And again, in all of this, he was acting under the orders from the House of Rothschild. The main purpose of the Weishaupt plan of operation required his Illuminati to do the following things to help them accomplish their purpose. Use monetary and sex bribery to obtain control of men in high places and all the various levels of government and other fields of once influential people had fallen for the lies, deceits, and temptations of the Illuminati. They were held in bondage by application of political and other forms of blackmail, threats of financial ruin, public exposure, and financial harm, even death to themselves and members of their families. Do you realize how many present top officials in our government, in our present government in Washington, are controlled in that way by the CFR? Do you realize how many homosexualities are in our State Department and Oval Office? All federal agencies, even in the White House, are controlled that way. And of course Obama is. Larry Sinclair sure gave us a little insight into Obama, didn't he? Now, the Illuminati and the faculties of colleges and universities were to cultivate students possessing exceptional mental ability, belonging to well-bred families with international leanings, and recommend them for special training in internationalism. Such training was provided by granting scholarships to those selected by the Illuminists. That might give you an idea of what a Rhodes Scholarship means, even though Charles Collins was a Rhodes Scholar. See, there are good people in the Masons. There are good people that are Jews. There are good people that are Rhodes Scholars. But if the majority can override those and shout them down, and that's what they're doing with Ron Paul. They're doing exactly the same thing to Ron Paul that they did to Charles Collins, that they've done to me, to keep us from gaining followers, to keep us from gaining support. And folks, then it boils down to you. It boils down to you. They don't want me to succeed. They have tried to kill me. They've tried to silence me for the exact information I am giving you today. It's really, really important that you stand up. You start telling people, look, I'm not a Republican. This is the problem. This is the problem. This is where I was running into writer's block. When I started this, when I wrote that stuff out of the Free American, that I was put on every page of my every issue of my magazine that stated I'm for America. I'm pro-American, you know. And America, as far as I'm concerned, is a Christian country. So, you know, just don't try to force your brand of Christianity on me. We got hundreds of brands. We got hundreds of deviants. We've got hundreds of millions of interpretations of the Bible. Doesn't lessen its value. It means we need to look at it. And we need to look a little bit beyond that, because the Bible was written by men. It was influenced by men. And when I talked about Pauline Christianity in one of my issues, And here's the problem. As soon as you run across, as soon as you deviate, oh, you're talking about Pauline Christianity? Oh, you're saying Paul was a false prophet? He was one of the apostles. So he said. Oh, but his name was Saul. His name, and Tex Mars has not talked to me since then. Because I discuss the Jewish origins and the use of the Jews in the plan of the New World Order, because they don't have any compunctions, no religions boycotts, although our Judeo-Christianity doesn't either. Remember usury? You're not supposed to do usury, and that's maybe one of the advantages that the Muslims have. They're not charging interest on their loans to their people. And the American people are being milked by their whole financial system. Oops, wait a minute. Are you on? I didn't know anybody was on here. I'm not looking at the phone, but I will take your call if you just hang on a second. Let me get over there. Let me get over there. Okay. This you, Papa?
Good morning, Clay, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I've been listening to you guys this morning. I haven't been feeling good the last couple of days, that's why I haven't been on. But, yeah, we're seeing it's clicking along a little bit faster now. I've been trying to get my own little group going on up here to get some property up by the border, and it's going to a lot of hoops. It's by the park, and
this is in Alaska, right? I mean, this you're talking about up in Alaska, right?
Alaska. St. Elias Wrangell National Park is on the border of this property, and they're trying to take it all over. So I think that's why the property was cheap too. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it now, or if I even want it, because it sounded like imminent domains coming down the road for a lot of people who have any property up here along the borders of the park.
I have a feeling here they are going to start limiting, doing everything they can to limit individuals' access to remote areas, because that's where resistance can form, and they're already moving the troops in here. They're already suspended posse comitatus, and it's not just Alaska. They're going after property owners. They're trying to stop any property owners from developing. They don't want Liberty Villages coming up. They don't want, they don't want, and I'm sorry, there's been a war on the American farmer for 100 years, and now if you're trying to grow a garden in your backyard, they're going to try to limit your water. You can't have a rain barrel, can't do this, can't do that, you know, and the government inspector's got to come out and check your tomatoes.
Exactly. We have a big case that just happened 2-3 years ago with this family called the Pilgrims on the other side of the parkland, and they basically rounded them up and took them out. And the same thing's going on with this Frederick family who own this property. It's beautiful property. It'd be perfect for a Liberty Village is what we wanted it for. It has the airstrip and the lake, but yeah, it's all about, there's nothing out there. I mean, it is as far secluded in Alaska and being on the highway system, and it's even off the highway system. You know, it's a gravel road.